to On the Clock, the Panthers 2024 draft special presented by Bud Light. Panthers surprised a lot of people by going on the clock last night, trading up to that 32nd overall pick. We are going to get into all of it. I'm Kristen Balboni. I'm joined by a couple of Panthers legends. We got Jonathan Stewart and Geoff Schwartz. Guys, thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Before we get into everything, we have a little fun fact. You two were drafted in the same year, both out of Oregon, both to the Panthers, 2008.
Long time ago.
Hey, no comment, no comment.
Like
They were teammates for quite some time, and Geoff, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, a little bit different,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
He gets the first round pick treatment, which obviously great, deserved it. It was fantastic. Seventh round pick a little different, but we both ended up with the Panthers. It was great.
Absolutely.
And I couldn't have done it without him.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
You know, you got to always appreciate your big fellows up front.
Absolutely. And you guys make great teammates. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk through everything today. So, I mean, full disclosure to everyone here, we were all prepared to talk about, hey, Panthers are about to go on the clock tonight. What are they going to do with pick number 33? Of course, surprised everyone late last night by moving up to 32 and drafting Xavier Legette from South Carolina. What do you guys make of the pick and the move?
Well, I love it. You know, you have a magnetic force basically coming to Charlotte, his home state, his hometown. It's his stomping ground, right? But you have a magnetic force in a way that he's going to catch everything around him. His body control, everything about him screams playmaker. You turn on the film, he's the one that stands out. You look at the Duke Mayo Bowl earlier this year, or in 2023, September, he stood out. If it wasn't for him, it probably would have been a blowout. I mean, they lost the game, but he was the one person outside of Drake May that stood out to me the most. And as you continue to see him develop throughout the year, this is where we get a great addition to the Carolina Panthers.
The Panthers entered this offseason with one goal, right, which is to get more talent around Bryce Young. They did that a little bit in free agency, and now they added a wide receiver that they had to have in the draft. And you look at the value of this, right? That's the point of the draft. Trading up to 32 gets you that fifth-year option with the first-round pick, but they had to make sure to get the guy they wanted. And it's a guy they targeted the whole time, get him at 32. As Stu mentioned, the ability to go up and catch the football, to give Bryce Young an option like that really will help him in his development. So I like the value of trading up, and I like the guy that they targeted in that position to help Bryce Young.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that value because you did have some people asking, like, why go from 33 to 32? And Geoff, you just touched on it, but if we could just expand, the reason is getting that fifth-year option from the first rounder.
So the top 32 picks in the first round have that fifth-year option. It's team controlled. And for a position like wide receiver that's now getting very expensive.
Yes, second contracts.
And you look at, like, you know, offensive line, cornerback, and defensive end and quarterback used to be the four positions that were the highest paid. Now wide receiver, because of the importance of that. So this allows team control for that fifth year at a cheaper option than what would be obviously in free agency.
And Stu, I want to go back to something you said where you're like, he's going to catch everything around him. He's a magnetic force. Literally, you know, the hands feel magnetic. What is, based on what you guys have seen and what you know about the NFL, what is that transition time for a receiver until we can say, okay, for the Panthers, he's going to be catching everything?
I mean, it's obviously going to take some time for him to develop and get it, you know, the playbook down pat. Because, I mean, when you're a rookie coming into the situation, you got to get to a point to where you understand, you know, the philosophy, the schematics, you know, the verbiage, to where you can actually go out there and play fast. Once he gets to that point, I mean, it's game over. And his natural ability, I mean, his strength, his physicality, his size, his speed, all those things are going to help him move the chains faster. When you get a guy like that into, you know, going against a DB that, you know, is a little bit smaller in size, might be the same speed, but you get a guy like Xavier to be able to catch the easy routes. And I'm talking about the short crossing routes. Give him the ball on the jet sweeps. Put him out there in space. Give him a screen. Give it to him easy and watch what he does. And when you watch what he does, he's breaking tackles. His balance on contact. I mean, those are the guys that actually make little plays, explosive plays, and that's what's going to give him confidence. And that's what's going to actually give him an opportunity in this league to be a playmaker.
And speaking of playmaker stuff, do you like how he slots in with the other receivers? Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, 103 catches last year. Do you like kind of not just the player, but how he fits into this team?
Yes, because they needed a big guy who can run and get the football.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
just like it's like, okay, nothing's happening. Let's throw the ball downfield to the guy that can catch the ball. Like, you need that in your offense, because it also, what it does is, if you have a guy that can take the top off, right, can run deep, defense have to change the way they play you. They have to respect that ability for the guy to run deep. That means underneath routes are open, running the ball might be a little bit easier. And the best coaches, and I think we have that here, will find ways, as Stu mentioned, early in his career to get him some easy touches, right? Okay, here's a play action pass, run a double move, just go. Like, we'll throw the ball as far as we can, and you can go catch it. So there's ways to get him in the offense early in his career that'll help Young. And again, like, sometimes you're scrambling. Just throw the ball up to a guy that can catch the football. The confidence in a player like that will help a young quarterback grow.
And then as far as this being the pick, we had heard going into this that he was one of the guys they really liked. Was he, do you feel, Geoff, the guy we have to go and get, or were there other receivers right around, there are plenty of other talented receivers right around that pick that could have made the same impact, or was this like the slam dunk?
I think when you look at, again, it's the value of where they're drafting, right? There's only a couple guys that were there. Mitchell was there, McConkey was there. I think he's the best of those guys, especially for what you want specifically with your offense. That's part of the draft that's important to talk about, right? Sometimes you might think, oh, that guy's drafted too high. Well, he might fit a specific thing that you want from that position. I think when you look at what he can do versus the other guys, too, that were available, he fits what the Panthers need specifically to help the quarterback grow here.
It goes to versatility. He's a guy that can be an X. He can be a guy that's in the slot. He can go outside and line up on the outside, take the defense deep, you know what I'm saying? So just giving Bryce a guy that can do a little bit more than just be a slot guy, be a outside guy. He can line up in the backfield.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're going to see that.
I know you like to see
And
all of
return,
that.
and return kicks. Which,
And return kicks, especially now with the new rule now, because you have two guys back deep. You got to have him and another guy.
Yep.
He's definitely got to be there.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
So I think it's safe to say we're giving this one an A, right? Like yes. I think we feel really good. Panthers fans certainly have checked in on social media, feel really good about this pick. I want to move on now to the rest of the draft, because certainly we were all watching it. We watched those previous 31 picks, not knowing if that the Panthers were going to come back in and get that first round pick. What did you guys make? What stands out to you, Geoff, about the first round as we look at some of the opponents for the Panthers, some of the other big moves?
Very quarterback heavy.
Yeah.
12, 6 guys in the top 12.
No,
Some
the
of those
draft
teams,
quarterback heavy?
Yeah, but some teams I think went a little bit heavy. But you look at where they're situated. The Broncos needed a quarterback. The Vikings needed a quarterback. I think a lot of teams, Stu, did a good job of filling the need they need. Offensive line, wide receiver. And then you have the Falcons, who
We got to talk about that.
I mean, look.
Do we?
I don't think Penix is going to be the pro that people think he's going to be. So that kind of skews my opinion about where they're at. But they just paid Cousins $100 million essentially for 2 years. And you drafted a 24-year-old quarterback to sit for 2 more years and then hope, I guess he's ready to go at 26
Hopefully.
to be your guy. When, the signing of Cousins to me, Stu, screams, we're winning now. Yeah. And you had an opportunity at 8 to either trade back, get even a wide receiver, take Rome Odunze, take a defensive player, but you drafted a player who you're not planning to help for at least 2 years, which I think is not the best way to use your draft assets.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they feel strongly about Penix.
Clearly.
But they feel strong about Cousins too.
But hey, listen, and I feel like this is what we're going to start seeing a little bit of this trend, because you got the Jordan Love, you got Patrick Mahomes that have sat behind quarterbacks earlier on in their career. And there's something to say about developing a quarterback, especially someone that is a Penix.
Yeah.
If you got a Penix sitting there in the quarterback room, scratching and itching to play, but you got Kirk Cousins in front, or if Kirk Cousins isn't ready to go, now you're a genius. And so I think that's basically what they're banking on, but we know how the Falcons do.
Yeah. That is such a good point, though, because we used to see that, like your Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre. We saw a lot more of that, and then the pendulum completely swung the other way, where you'd have these guys getting drafted like late first round, early second round. They'd be playing after like 4 games into the season. And you're right, Stu, that's something I hadn't thought about, that we're seeing more of that, hey, we're going to sit behind and develop you. So maybe that's what they were thinking. We'll find out, I guess.
Better hope.
I do want to, yeah, right? That was certainly the biggest head scratcher, I thought, from the first round. I want to look at what the other NFC South teams did in the first round. So the Saints took Fuaga.
Yeah.
You like that one, Geoff?
Look, he's a right tackle in the NFL. They need a right tackle. The right tackle's injured right now. I think he does project a little bit more inside in the NFL. There's some pass protection concerns I have about him in the NFL, just the way Oregon State ran their offense. But he's a road grader, man. He can run block. He gets on you. Like, again, we talk about what teams needed. Like, they needed a right tackle. They had to come out of the draft with the right tackle who can move inside at some point. So I like what they did there at 14.
Mm-hmm. And then the Bucks taking Graham Barton, guys. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Feels right.
He's a finisher.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And a punisher. So, I mean, they definitely need that. I think they lost
Well, they lost Jensen at center.
So they just need some help, in that middle ground of the offensive line, which is very important for, a guy like Baker Mayfield to really sustain that pocket and continue his success as a quarterback down the road.
Yep. All right. So that is what the Panthers, the rest of the league did in the first round. Coming up, we are going to look ahead to these later rounds because we all know the draft doesn't always just start and doesn't always finish on day one. That's what we think about it. But let's take a listen to what Dan Morgan had to say about night one of the draft.
We love Xavier. Everything he bought, not only as a person but as a player, like his ability to attack the ball when it's in the air, his ability to run with it after the catch. He's just big, he's strong, he's physical. I think he has a lot of upside. So, we wanted to take that opportunity to go get our guy.
Seeing the guy starting to come off the board and just saying, not yet, and then in Dan Morgan fashion, there was daylight and he went, bang, and he hit the hole just like everyone has seen him do in his career. It was just amazing to see the patience of it and for it to all, come to us like this, to get the guy that we love.
All right, we have, talked plenty about Xavier Legette and that 32 pick, but we got to talk about the rest of the draft. So coming up, the Panthers have number 39 overall, and then we've got several more picks, plenty more picks that we will get into. But I'm just wondering now, with the fact that we got that wide receiver, which Geoff, you said number one priority right there, where do you think the Panthers go at 39, guys?
For me, it's got to be defensive end, or edge. We got Clowney, we got Shy Tuttle, we got Brown, we got the guys, right? We got a good nucleus. I don't know about you, but when I order a chicken tender,
now you're
special,
talking my language, yeah.
I like a 5-piece, okay? Especially when you got a 3-4 defense. You got your 3, you need your 2 ends, and basically that just completes the puzzle right there.
Yeah.
We need somebody else on the other side of Clowney that can actually get after the quarterback. As much as we need to protect our quarterback, we want to attack the opponent's quarterback to make things difficult. And so
I just want to say I appreciate you putting it in the language of a 5-piece. You're speaking a pregnant lady's language. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Geoff, what about you? Where are you looking if you're looking at 39?
I think you'd love if one of these corners continued to fall down to you, whether it's Kool-Aid or DeGene, and then looking maybe interior offensive line. The 39 could be a spot where we see the first sort of interior guy taken. Yesterday was mostly tackles. Some guys will move inside, but at 39, you're looking at centers, JPJ, Frazier, maybe inside a Cooper Beebe type of guard. So I'm curious. Look, the teams above them could use corners too. So that changes the equation of where you pick at 39. If let's say the interior guys are sort of gone then, and the defensive backs are gone, and you want a defensive end, you can even trade out of that, right? Because I'm not sure 39 is a spot where a defensive end is going to go, just looking at kind of where those guys are rated. So I could see a trade back if that's a guy that you really, really want. You can even move back at the end of the second round to get a pass rusher. But I'm curious, again, Kool-Aid, DeGene, JPJ. Look, JPJ, the Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, is going to be a great center in the NFL. And I think we talk a lot about center value. If you draft the right guy there, they're there forever. Look at even here. Look at Ryan Khalil, right? Look at obviously Jason Kelsey, who just retired. You look at all over the NFL. Creed Humphrey with the Chiefs now, second-round draft pick. When you find that guy, they're there 10, 12, 15 years. And so I think JPJ can be that guy for the Panthers.
And that's especially important considering that, we know Austin Corbett is going to slot into center. He's going to move over, but on the last year of his deal. when you say JPJ is going to be a great center
Yeah.
in the NFL, what are the markers of that coming out of college?
It's a great question. A lot of it is scheme dependent, which is like Zach Frazier's more of like a outside zone kind of, a little smaller size. He just sort of understands angles. He understands where he needs to be. He's also very bright. When you watch Oregon's film, you see him and Bo Nix communicating, okay, here's what we're doing, here's what we need to do, here's how I see it, here's how you see it. He also moves really well in space. And when you watch him out getting on screens or even reverses, like he's clearing the way. So a lot of what he does is very translatable to the NFL. And I think the best part about his film too is he's young. This is his first year starting at center. He played a little bit. He actually played defensive tackle as a true freshman at Oregon. He started the bowl game at defensive tackle, and then next year was a little bit injured, and obviously last year played every snap. So there's a lot of things that you like from his film. He can also play guard too. So if you have Corbett there for 1 year at center,
Versatility.
he
Yeah,
can
no
play
kidding.
guard. Zach Frazier's not playing guard in the NFL.
Yeah. And Stu, what do you like to see from your center?
I mean, I want to see a guy that's finishing blocks. There's a lot that they say about his arm length and all those types of things. He's strong.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like, there's guys that can get away with certain things because they're just naturally gifted. He's gifted with strength, and he understands how to utilize it into making explosive movements and finding the leverage on guys to get them on the ground. I want to see guys on the ground. I want to hop over you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Spoken like a true running
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
So I love his power is great, and I think the point about technique, like when you finish guys in the NFL, even a guy like Cooper Beebe, who might be a Panthers draft pick at some point at guard, who would kind of be the first guard the Panthers just go straight guard right now, like they finish the blockers. And when you finish someone, that means your technique is good. You can't pancake anyone or finish someone if you have bad technique. So that's like the first sign of it. Everyone asks me sometimes, like, what do you look at with first thing on film? Do you finish a guy? That's what I look at, because if you finish a guy, your point, you use technique to get there. And then I kind of go backwards from there. JPJ.
Which is
Blueberries,
playing
yes.
with your feet,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
You are playing with your feet. Be where your feet are. If you're playing with your hands,
No.
and you're so
Holding.
obsessed with how long is his arms. Well, if he's not playing with his arms and he's playing with his feet, he's winning the
Correct.
rep.
Yep.
Especially if he's strong
Yeah.
like an ox. So
And how long does it take a center to adjust to the NFL?
well, it depends. I mean, you have Robert Hunt, you have Damian Lewis.
Yeah, two big, very, very competent
Yeah.
guys that are going to take care of you there.
Which is the reason why Austin Corbett right now going into that
Yeah.
situation without
Yeah.
having a center makes a lot of sense because he has two solid foundations right next to him that are going to help him develop and understand what they're going to do moving forward.
So we talked about, the fact that they could trade back
Yeah.
depending on who's available, what's on the board. Who is the pick that you say, okay, we're staying at 39 if this guy is here? Is it JPJ?
Well, I think it's Kool-Aid, right? I mean,
No,
it's
Kool-Aid, yeah.
I think it's Kool-Aid and JPJ.
Yeah.
Tell me what you guys like about Kool-Aid. I mean, there's a lot to like, yeah.
I mean, he's speed,
Yep.
clearly, but just his understanding of leverage. I'm telling you, everything when it comes down to the guys that are good and that has the ability to be great, it's understanding leverage, understanding themselves, and they're aware of how they play. Not about what the coach is telling them to be or who's telling them to be. They understand who they are and understand how to find leverage to make the play on the ball, especially in space. Like depending on what type of scheme we're running, if you're out there on the island, we need you to be leveraged.
He's good on an island too. That's what we did at Alabama. Alabama runs a ton of man coverage, and he's kind of by himself on an island.
Yeah.
And when you kind of read all the scouting reports, all of them say poise, intelligent. I mean, to be a multiple year starter at Alabama, like you have to have it going. Nick Saban's not playing guys who don't understand football. And so the ability for to be a multiple year starter on a winning team like that under Nick Saban, you can translate that very well to the NFL.
Yep. All right, so that is 39. I want to briefly go over the other picks that the Panthers had. So they've got a third-round pick, number 65 overall, fourth-round pick, number 101, two fifth-round picks. They traded 141 for 200, and then going back, they have number 142, and then they've got a seventh-rounder, 240. What positions, so say you're Dan Morgan, both of you guys, What positions are you looking at for added depth? Obviously knowing that it depends on what they do at 39.
Yeah.
What do you want to see?
Can I give you the very boring answer?
Yeah.
You set the best player on your board.
Of course.
Look,
And
I'm being serious. Like that, everyone says, well, we need this guy. They got their guy, right? They have pick 32. They got their wide receiver. Pick 39. If they stay there, they're going to get a quality starter right now, a bunch of positions. And then if you draft the best player you have graded year after year, rounds 3 through 7, in 4 or 5, you're going to have a really good roster. Like you can't deviate, I think, later in the draft off of your board because you spent months preparing it. Yeah. You just take the best player there because you never know. Guy gets hurt here. You've drafted that guy to replace him. Top of the draft, you go best player plus value, I think, right? Like you do that. They did that so far. They're going to do it in round 2. 4 through 7, man, just get the best players.
Yeah, and the best players that you believe in. And I think that's what we're seeing, the difference so far this whole offseason. We're getting guys that fit the script, that fit the Panther way. You know what I'm saying? And so you got to get guys that are absolutely the best available, but are they the best available for the locker room? I look at, Josh Norman, where he was drafted. He was the best guy for the locker room, a local guy, Coastal Carolina, and he fit the program. He fit the defense. I mean, he thrived in our defense. And so you got to find those types of players that fit what you do, but also are the best player available for the locker room.
That is such a good point. And that's, even though this is a new coaching staff, we know Dan Morgan and Dave Canales have that history together. So I think that speeds up the process of finding out what are those good fits, right? What are we looking for, not just best available player, but like you said, who are the players we want to bring in? What attitudes do they have? What can they do for the locker room? That is a great point. All right, we've talked a lot about the 39th pick. We'll see who that is in a few hours, but we haven't yet talked about the guy who is in Detroit who will be calling his name. We are going to be speaking to him next on the show. And Panthers fans, I'll give you a little hint about who it is. Drafted in the 2nd round by the Panthers in 1996.
Now, we may have a Michigan State daily double because Carolina's on the board. Muhsin Muhammad, I think this is where Carolina is going to go.
With the 43rd pick overall, the Panthers have selected Muhsin Muhammad, wide receiver from Michigan State.
He's coming, throws it upfield. He's got Muhammad caught. Oh, Moose with a great catch. Touchdown, Muhsin Muhammad. Deep downfield for Muhammad. He's got it at the 30. Touchdown! Touchdown, Carolina! Oh, my goodness!
Welcome to the Hall of Honor induction for the great Muhsin Muhammad.
I want you all to say this with me. Keith! Keith!
Welcome back to On the Clock. It is our pleasure now to welcome in Panthers legend Muhsin Muhammad, coming to us live from Detroit, where he will be announcing the 39th pick later tonight. I have to ask, we got to start out with, how is the vibe in Detroit right now?
Oh, it's electric. I don't, no pun intended, but I think they're losing themselves up here.
See what you did there? I like that.
Well, man, this is awesome, man. Like last year, I had the opportunity to do the same thing that you did. It's an honor. So, like, how does this feel for you? Obviously, being an all-time great here for the Carolinas, being able to represent the 39th pick today.
It's special. I'm back home. I grew up not far from here, about 90 miles in Lansing, Michigan, the capital city. But my parents, my mother and my father, are from Detroit, and my family, a lot of my family is right here in Detroit. So, it's safe to say that the passion of the Motor City runs through my veins. And so this is like coming home. And so being able to announce the 2nd pick in a city where, I grew up in front of home fans and so forth, and announcing the 2nd pick for the Panthers, it does have an emotional tie to it. So it's going to be fun. I think there's an electricity, a feeling about this as our team, rebuilds. I think understanding what pieces are we going to put in place are it's going to be fun to see, Canales and Dan Morgan and the whole crew put this thing together. And I'm excited for them just overall. I think this is just a very great time to be a Panther fan.
Before we get to the draft pick that we saw and the draft pick today, what are your memories of being drafted by the Panthers?
Yeah, so like I said, I grew up not far from here. I sat in my living room, probably similar to a lot of players right now that are waiting to be drafted. And I was waiting on that phone to ring. And, the first round came and went. And, they did multiple rounds in one day, but the first round came and went. And I sat around and I was waiting and, surrounded by friends and family. And the teams that I thought were going to pick me were not the teams that picked me. It was not the team that picked me. It wound up being the Carolina Panthers. And so Bill Polian and Dom Capers called me. They said, "How do you feel about being a Panther?" And I said, "I love to be a Panther." And we were off to the races. The next day, I flew into Charlotte and I toured a stadium that wasn't quite finished yet. Bank of America Stadium. It was called Ericsson Stadium back then, but it wasn't finished yet. But I got a chance to walk through that stadium and just take it all in. And later on that year, we broke ground and represented in the NFC Championship game later that year.
And that is such a special moment. You guys obviously had it, but me being around, when you get to come into the building for the first time, you visualize your life, you start to meet the team. That is so cool. But Moose, I want to ask you, so you were supposed to not only announce the 39th pick, you're supposed to announce the 33rd as well, but something tells me you might be okay with the fact that the Panthers moved up to 32. What do you think about Xavier Legette?
Explosive player, right? I think he's starting to come into your own. And there's some things that, similarities between the two of us. I think, he's starting to come into, you think about big, physical, fast receivers. I think Xavier Legette is definitely that. When you think about, I started 1 year of college football and really matured as a professional after the draft, after my rookie year, really started to come into my own. I think Legette is one of these guys, if he really dedicates himself to honing his craft, I think the upside is in front of him. He hasn't maxed out all of his potential, although he's displayed quite a bit in college and earned himself a first-round selection. I think the Panthers got their guy. I think, moving up to get that pick or allowing the Buffalo Bills to come down so they could get that pick, I think was just a very opportunistic and really good move for the Carolina Panthers. And they've got a kid that they can build with.
If you could give Xavier Legette some advice, as if you were talking to your younger self in that living room back home, what would you tell yourself and Xavier Legette?
Gosh, I think the message is probably one similar that I would tell any player, and it wouldn't matter if you were, the first pick in the draft or Mr. Irrelevant. My message to Xavier Legette is maximize all the potential that God gave you. It starts with daily goals, and I think any roadmap to success starts one day at a time. And so set those daily goals are more important than the ultimate goal of being a Hall of Famer or whatever your ultimate goals are in life. And so set those daily goals, right? I think the biggest thing for me is developing that discipline and that structure around your life so that, you can make the right decisions. Even when people aren't looking, you can make the right decisions. And learning how to say no in the NFL is probably one of the biggest things that you can learn is how do you say no? And not only to other people, but how do you say no to yourself? So I would give him that advice. And then the other thing I would say to him is, operate with integrity in your life. If you do all these things, if you follow all these things, at the end of the day, your character will be developed. I think you will start to develop that reputation, and most importantly, your legacy. And when you leave the game, you have no regret.
How does a wide receiver like him form a relationship with the quarterback? How's that process work to get on the same page, to get that chemistry going? Can you walk us through the steps that takes?
Yeah, Geoff. I think it starts with get a cell phone number, right? And call the guy, develop some kind of continuity outside of the game. I mean, you don't have to, vacation together every year, but I think working out together, having some kind of regiment where you guys are doing some things in the off season will help build that camaraderie. But the biggest thing for wide receiver is be accountable, right? I mean, when I throw you the ball, please catch it. And if you don't catch it, please don't let anybody else catch it. So, what can you do to be accountable? And I think that's the most important thing is work on those hands, catch a bunch of balls every single day. And so when that quarterback drops back, in his mind, he knows that I can throw the ball to this guy. And I know that the worst thing that's going to happen is it hits the ground. And that's, I think that's the first place you start.
Moose, what was the biggest transition for you from college to the NFL, and what do you think Xavier's contending with there?
Yeah, I think the biggest transition is just managing your lifestyle, right? Managing family, managing the ticket list, trying to figure out where you're going to live, and all of that coming off of, senioritis, right? Because, that last year of college, you're just like, man, I'm ready to get this over with. And then you go from that right into the draft to rookie mini camps. And then you got to figure out your life. And so there's this fatigue after that first year because you're just trying to figure out the simple things in life. And then when you got family in one ear, you got, all these other different things that are clawing at you, those are the challenges that most of these young guys, when they come into the league, they've got to figure out how to manage that.
As a former running back, I really appreciated the way you blocked. Xavier Legette is a blocker, and that's one of his strengths, and I love that about him. He wants to go in there and do the dirty work. Speak on that from a receiver standpoint of how important that is for not just him individually, but just where the Panthers want to go and where they want to be as a culture, as the Panther way. Like, speak on that so that way we can remind our brothers to go out there and pancake somebody.
Well, Stewie, I can appreciate, Stewie, you saying, Moose, I love the way you block for me as a former running back. And I'll say it like this, Stewie, I love you blocking for me.
I bet.
No, I'm serious because, most of the time when I get those one-on-one matchups, it's because there were 8 men in the box and they're probably trying to blitz and take the quarterback's head off, right? Mm-hmm. You had to step up and provide some extra protection with that guy to your right, Geoff over there. You guys form fitting up the offensive line, but it's not just offensive line and the protection. There's also that running back that has to step up and take on a linebacker blitzing or a safety blitzing, which allows me to have that one-on-one outside. So it comes back to this, Stewie. Yeah. I'll block for you if you block for me, right?
Hey, my man.
So I wasn't afraid to stick my nose in there, and it sounds like Xavier is the same kind of guy that's going to go in there and help out his running backs. Because I know, Stewie, if you're a 1,000-yard threat, that's going to loosen it up for me, and they're going to have to put 8 men in the box to stop you. And when they do that, you're going to block for me, and I can give you a 1,000-yard receiver. So it's a symbiotic relationship there.
There it is, man. Looking forward to pick 39. Is there a position that you're hoping to call out when you go up to the stage?
It's a good question. I think everybody was looking at wide receiver, and there were quite a few options there. There was a run on receivers. There was at least 7 receivers taken in the first round. There's been a run on offensive linemen. I think a lot of the good quarterbacks have been taken off the board. Not to say that there aren't any others remaining, but I think the high-level quarterbacks have been taken off there, and we've got our guy at quarterback. I think Bryce Young is a guy that, we've invested in, and he's going to be a guy that can lead this organization. Getting weapons around him, I think, are important. I'm not sure how deep the running backs are in the draft, and we've got some guys, Chuba Hubbard, some other guys that we feel really good about. I think to the extent we can start to add a little bit more around guarding those big receivers that we're going to have to face in the NFC South. And so there's some defensive backs, I think, that are still on the board. There hasn't been a run on safeties. There's still a couple of good cornerbacks out there like Kool-Aid McKittrick, some other guys that I think may be there, may not. But I think if you can go defensive back, You can go maybe linebacker. We still need to, kind of shore up our defense a little bit more. And you can never have enough good pass rushers. So I think there's some, depending on what kind of quality picks are out there, I think, there's an opportunity to still add some really, really good players at that 39th selection.
Well, Moose, before we let you go, speaking of that 39th pick, you were trying to ask Stu for some advice before we started rolling about, okay, do you have any advice for calling the name? Stu, being the professional that he is, said, we'll save it for the show. So what advice do you have for Moose when he gets up there?
Man, just go up there and make sure you don't say the name wrong.
He's got to study every name now.
So just be able to, just think the hardest name and just try to say the hardest names. And so there's a list. So go through the list.
Wait, you went through the list beforehand to practice?
Oh, yeah, I went through a list of people's names and all that. Like, I'm just like, man, it could be this person, it can be that person.
You got to write it out phonetically.
And so I just kind of, practiced for like a quick 5 minutes, you know what I'm saying? And then I went on stage, make sure you don't trip, make sure you pick your feet up, and just smile, man. It's going to be a good time.
I could do the smile part easy, man. I think maybe Dan Morgan and Canales and the guys could just pick somebody with an easy name to help me out.
There you go.
So maybe you should text them right quick and just tell them, whoever you pick, just make sure it's an easy name.
Hey, Stewie, did you see the name before you opened the card? Did you know the name before you walked in?
I did know the name before I went. And so my problem was actually saying, and with the 2023 NFL draft pick, or that was the hardest part. So get that down pat as far as what the preamble. So get that down pat.
So let me just rehearse. So with the 39th pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the Carolina Panthers select Jonathan Stewart.
You're a professional.
Oh, you nailed it.
For you.
This is gonna be easy breezy for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try. I had to rehearse this a little bit.
Moose, thank you so much for joining us. We are definitely looking forward to you making that 39th overall pick in just a couple of hours. Coming up next for us, though, we have the man of the hour. Xavier Legette is joining us in studio. You do not want to miss that. That's next.
Guys, let's welcome the Carolina Panthers to the first round. Wide open! It's Xavier Legette!
You think about Deebo Samuel with that size and physicality.
One-on-one, Legette! Got it!
He's a big vertical weapon who goes up and wins a lot of these 50-50 balls down the field. Also has return background.
With the 32nd pick, the Carolina Panthers select Xavier Legette, South Carolina.
Welcome back, and how great is this? We have the Panthers' first round pick, Xavier Legette, in the studio with us fresh off the plane. You're here at the stadium for the first time. I just want to know, can you take me through getting that call last night?
Oh, man, well, I had just left from the bathroom. And as I was walking back to the table, Dan Morgan called me.
Well, thank goodness you got the bathroom break out of the way first.
Oh, yeah, so I was walking back to the table, he called me. He's like, hey, how you feel about us trading up to come get you? I say, man, let's do it. Oh, yeah, man, I tell my people, everybody started boom rushing the table, man, because everybody, we was kind of spread it out. So once I tell everybody, they started boom rushing the table, they all got up in the little huddle. And once they called my name, it was the best moment we could ever ask for.
That's amazing.
Man, Xavier, so I was drafted in the first round. I didn't get a chance to come the next day to, see what my life was going to be like for the next several years. So I had to wait. I had to wait until minicamp. So I was back home just basically, waiting, sitting, waiting. You just got an opportunity to walk around the stadium for the first time as a Carolina Panther. You growing up, watching the Panthers. I mean, just take us through how you're feeling right now in this absolute, great moment.
Oh, man, well, first off, man, I'm very excited to be here, man, to be in this position. And, man, I say, man, just by me being able to come on the first day, just seeing all the fans out there, man, they was that high excited they was, man, that just showed me, man, that they really happy about me being here. And, man, I want to do right by them.
Have you had a chance to talk to Bryce Young yet? Kind of start that relationship going?
Oh man, well he texted me last night after they picked me, man. He was like, man, I'm very excited to work with you, man. I just texted back and said, let's get to it. Yes, so man, I know he a very talented quarterback. He gonna put that ball in there. I gotta make them plays for him.
Take me through your mentality, like your mindset, because we talked earlier about, we've been talking about you all day, but you know, take me through your mindset and your approach to the game of football. I think the fans would love to know kind of like what makes you tick on game day.
Oh man, really, man. What I really say, what take me there is just the love that I have for the game, man. I say my mindset is relentless. I feel like I play with a relentless effort when I'm out there on the field, and man, and on game day, man, I just take it all in. I take me a deep breath before the game. I don't listen to no music. When I go out there for pregame warm-up, I just take me a deep breath, look around the stadium, man, and just take the whole moment in.
When the ball's up in the air, you go get the ball.
Oh yeah.
What's in your mind when you see that ball flow in your direction?
My ball or nobody. My ball or nobody's, man. Oh, that's all I'm thinking about now. Hey, I want to make those plays, man. I want to make those plays about 100% of the time.
I know you give back to your community. I saw the video that they posted. Everybody's getting to know you. So, like, who in your life, inspires you to give back?
When I say that kind of falls back to my mom. She was really family oriented. We used to have about 14 people in the house, but I only have 2 sisters, 1 brother. While all my brother friends used to stay with us, my sister friends used to come stay with us, my cousins they used to come stay with us. So just seeing how much my mom cared about other folks, that just came on to me as well. And man, and part of that was me giving back was. And I just know that, like, we didn't really have much. When I was coming through there, they still kind of using the same stuff. So I just wanted to bring some new stuff in there, and I'm gonna keep continuing to do that.
Well, and speaking of what Stu just said, you talked about the moment that everybody rushed to the table. What was it like sharing that moment with all your family? Because we know that football is an individual sacrifice, but it's also a family sacrifice.
Oh man, I'll just say, man, we always waiting on the moment since when I first stepped foot on at Carolina, man. I'll say, it was just a step closer for me, and man, once I took off this year with the ball, man, we knew that this moment was coming, so it was very exciting for us.
Are you gonna ride a horse to work?
Oh no, man! Oh no, I ain't gonna ride the horse to work.
No, why not? Just we'll get you placed down the street.
No,
just come in the morning.
Not before practice. In the off season, workouts, I might ride that one over. Yeah, but not in the season.
Just promise you bring video of that. That's all we want to know.
Sure.
We need to see that. Xavier, we know you have a lot to get to the rest of the day. We want to thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with us, and congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing?
What's up?
Hey, we're gonna draft you right here.
What's going on?
You just traded up to get you.
For sure.
Let's go. You ready?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Most definitely.
We're excited, man. Hey, you didn't have to go tell the whole world we were gonna do it though the other day.
Hey, I was just saying, man.
All right, we're gonna call it in, man.
Most definitely.
Enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
Let's go!
Welcome back. And guys, we got to say a huge thank you to Xavier Legette for coming into the studio. Pretty cool that we get to talk to him so quickly after. What a big night he had, right?
And a big day. I mean, he's got to meet everyone in the building, right?
Yep.
He's going to meet the media.
Yeah.
He's got to meet everyone else.
Get his bearings, right? Step out onto
and
the
then
field.
I would imagine because he's from the area, his phone is just going crazy with
he's gotta get
family and friends, and so I thought that when I saw his video last night, him getting drafted, like there's a lot of people in there that are going to want to go to games.
Yeah.
And want to do. He's going to have to get his phone
the text
number.
messages are in the thousands.
Correct.
Well, you guys can get his new phone number if he takes your advice and give him some advice on how to handle this big transition. But it was awesome. It was so awesome to have him here. Speaking of awesome, we have a giveaway of this Bud Light cooler. So it is time to announce our Bud Light Draft Show giveaway winner, and that winner is Jim Bratton from High Point. So congratulations to Jim. He has taken home this cooler, as I said, and a t-shirt. I know Stu is jealous that he's not getting the cooler.
Yeah.
We appreciate Jim, though, and everyone who entered that giveaway. And guys, I can't believe it's already time to almost wrap this up. We've had such a great time. But I'm just wondering from both of you, and Stu, let's start with you. We've talked about so much. We have so much to look forward to tonight and tomorrow. You will be happy if the Panthers do this with the rest of the draft picks.
Just going back to what we were saying, look at the needs and plug where you can go. Like, plug what makes sense. Don't chase after anything that doesn't make any sense. And I don't think that we're going to do that, because this whole offseason, they've been on the same page. You know, our first pick to, last night, it matches up with everything, that we're trying to identify as, which is a smart, tough football team. And so just find some smart, tough football players and bring them in here to fit the mold.
We're already on the right track for that. Jeff, what about you? What would make you happy to see from the Panthers?
You want an impact starter at 39, right? So whether that's offensive line, whether that's defensive line, whether that's cornerback, I think we're looking at cornerback and offensive line. And after that, as we talked about all show, it's pretty simple, right? You fill your roster with the best players you can. I know that sounds maybe boring, but I think when you look at day 2 and day 3 of the draft, that's when you really get those glue guys, right? Those guys that are the depth players, the guys that really round out your roster. That's the goal of this new staff, right? Is to get those players in that believe in what they're doing here, that align with the new vision that we've had with the Panthers in this offseason.
All right, well, that is going to do it for us. We will be watching along with everyone else to see what the Panthers do these next 2 days. It's going to be exciting. Stewie, Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Thanks to all of our incredible guests, and mostly thanks to you all for watching our On the Clock 2024 Draft Special presented by Bud Light. We'll see you next time.